What's up YouTube? Welcome back to the channel where today we will be making some of our final repairs on our Salvage 2011 Ford Mustang Convertible project. But before we jump into it, if you love cars just as much as I do, then consider clicking that subscribe button so you can follow along with everything that goes on here on the channel. Now in our previous video, we mocked up our brand new radiator support, added a brand new radiator, and we also added some lowering springs. Once we added the lowering springs, the car was just way too low to the ground due to the incorrect tire sizes. And that's when I opted for a brand new set of tires the correct size. These new tires help with drivability, ride quality, and also help correct our speedometer issues. With that out of the way, we're going to weld in and paint our brand new radiator support and assemble the car for the final time. So I've had some time to take this Mustang out on the road, and I've actually took it on a couple road trips, and I put around 1,000 miles on it, and it runs excellent. I don't have any kind of issues, and it runs and drives really well, and I really enjoy having the convertible. But today we need to start doing some work, and that is the final repair on the radiator support, which means we're going to need to weld it in and paint it to match the car. And to do that, we're going to have to unfortunately take the entire front end of the car apart. We're going to have to remove the front bumper cover, the headlights, the fenders, all the liners, and some other odds and ends that are on the radiator support, just so we can take those zip screws out and drill our holes for our spot welds so we can weld that thing in and paint it. So with all the front body panels removed, you can see the bare radiator support. And now we can get to our zip screws so we can remove this thing and start prepping it for paint and to be welded in. So I went ahead and marked my plug weld areas here. There's a row here and right here on this bracket, and that's the same on both sides. And that's pretty much it. That's really all that's holding this thing in. And down here I have the old mangled radiator support, and I'm actually using this thing to keep track of locations for my J-clips. Now it's time to start removing some screws and get this radiator support out of the car. With the radiator support out of the way, I've already started working on the prep work on all of our areas where we need to do spot welds by coating everything with a nice coat of weld through primer. And same thing here on our replacement radiator support. You can see I do have some weld through primer here in these areas. And I'm going to go ahead and prep all this. As you see, I have it up on the fender stand. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the back sides of these headlight buckets and right here on the bottom, because it's going to be impossible to get to these areas once we get it on the car. With the paint sprayed, this radiator support looks really good. Now we've got it in clear coat right now, and we need to let all this dry. But I've done something special with this clear coat, something that I've never really tried before. This is my first try, so hopefully it's going to turn out good. I've actually added a flattening agent to the clear, and what that'll do is that'll actually cut the gloss in the clear and make it have a nice flat sheen. So we'll see how that turns out, because that's pretty much how everything underneath the hood of the car looks from the factory. As you can see, the radiator support is back in the car, and it is zip screwed in to the correct position, and pretty much it's ready to be spot welded in. So we got a little bit of prep work to do after we spot weld this thing in, and then we're going to need to tape this thing off, mask it off, and it'll be ready for paint. Now that the radiator support's prepped, the next thing we need to do before we spray some paint on this thing is to mask off the car. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay a piece of plastic and cover up the entire car, and I'm going to lay some paper and some plastic down here in these areas here, because you don't want any kind of overspray on your wiring harness or your radiator or your ABS module or anything like that. You want to keep it nice and neat so it'll look professional when you're done. Well, I'll say it's not the prettiest tape job, but it definitely will work. So with that complete, it's pretty much ready to spray, and we're going to spray this thing on low pressure, so there's not going to be a lot of overspray anyway, but we're going to target our areas where we welded in, and of course across the top where we didn't paint it before. The radiator support is painted, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. Now, I laid down an epoxy primer over the entire radiator support, then I come back with the silver base coat, and then the final stage was a flattened clear coat. And if you see, it looks really bright, but there's not really any gloss to it. It's just a very, very, very little bit of gloss. It's pretty flat. And I'm really happy with the way that turned out, because this is actually the first time that I've sprayed this. So it's the next day, and we've had time for the radiator support to dry, and there's only one thing left to do, and that is reassemble the car. And if you remember, I put these pieces of tape on the doors, the fenders, and the hood. And what that's going to do, that's going to help me line the fenders up and get them back to where they were. There you have it. The Mustang's back together. Everything is lined up right where it needs to be. and I'm really happy with the way this thing's turned out. Now, while the front end of this car looked great, there was one other issue, and that was the rear bumper. It had some scratches and some paint fading, and I needed to repair that, so I removed it from the car, painted it, and now it looks excellent. Now that our salvage Mustang is fully repaired, we can add it to our growing list of salvage projects completed. And that can only mean one thing: a new project coming soon to the channel. So until then, I'd like to say thank you for watching. Be sure you check out all my videos on all my other projects. And if you're not subscribed, then consider clicking the subscribe button, click the bell so you'll get the notifications. And you can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram.